for me to do my number. And you know, it is a holiday, it is Labor Day, and just for fun, I went and got out my encyclopedia and looked to see what Labor Day was all about. And of course, most of us know what it is in part, but we know, and I'll just share with you just a little bit, that Labor Day, of course, is a workers' holiday, and that it usually is the first Monday of September, and that actually it began in 1882, and then it was up to the different states to vote it in and to make it a legal holiday. And interestingly enough, Oregon was the first state to vote Labor Day as a legal holiday, and they did that in 1887. You know, in a lot of ways, Oregon really is progressive. They really do. They really get on top of things. And also, I looked up labor in the dictionary. And labor, it means work, especially hard work of a physical kind. But in the broadest sense, labor can mean any effort to achieve a desirable result, physical or mental. And you know something? Most of us don't like the word work. We don't like to labor, yet we work and labor we must. And it's interesting in the parables that the teacher Jesus, who taught life and taught the principles of life, taught the rules of the game of life, and he taught in the vernacular of the day. He taught by using suggestions and analogies of what was happening with the people of that time, such as he talked about fishermen, and he talked about laboring in the vineyards. And so laboring in the vineyards really means to you and to me working in the field of our mind. And this we have to do. And you know something? I made the comment last Sunday that there is no demonstration without application. And so many of us, and most people out there, I suppose, we think we want to have special things in our life, certain things in our life, but we want someone else to do it for us. We do not usually want to put forth the effort and the discipline and assume the responsibility that it takes to really work in the fields of our minds so that we can be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And this is what religious science and this teaching and this philosophy is all about. It's about the science of the mind. And the reason it's called a science is because we have discovered, it has been discovered, that there are certain principles and certain laws that are universal, and they're scientific. And the mind is a scientific experience because our thought is creative, and that we're always conjuring up images and imagination, using our imagination, because that's the very nature of thought. Thought is creative, and therefore there is a law, and it is a science, because that which we think or image is reflected back to us and into our world of experience. Now, we don't usually like to accept that, but it's not, Ernest Holmes didn't make it up. The teacher Jesus didn't make it up. It's a universal cosmic principle. And the more that you and I can understand mind and how it works and how it operates, the more that we're going to be able to live life in a way that we really want to, and that is being in charge of our life. That is making choices. That is using the power of mind creatively and constructively and dynamically, because we can change our lives. A quote I'd like to share with you, and is that man can alter his circumstances and change his lot in life by intentionally controlling his mental attitudes and states of consciousness. Now, we know this, but you know, unless you come to classes, unless you come to church, unless you hear me be redundant and repeat this over and over again, we forget it as quickly as we know it or as we learn it. Because most often we've been thinking limited concepts, race consciousness, the mirages of the ages much longer than we're aware that, hey, I can be in charge of my life. Thought is creative, and there's a law, and it's a science. There's a science to my use of thought and my use of feeling, because the law is, or principle is, that my thought plus my feeling equals my experience. Now, it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of working in the fields of our mind, watching our thoughts, watching our attitudes, watching our responses to life, to enable so that we can be in charge, and so that we can use this creative power for good, that we can use this creative intelligence that responds by corresponding. It doesn't know what it does, it only knows to respond and do it for you. And that we can truly be the cause unto our own experience. And religious science teaches this. It teaches that we are cause unto our own experience. Now, I know that most of us would like to play the blame game. And you know what? Vic was sharing in the September song, that beautiful, beautiful song, that we don't have much waiting time. And we don't. We need to get on with it. We need to get busy working in the fields of our minds as diligently as we possibly can if we want the fruits, if we want the harvest. And it's going to be harvest time is just around the corner, folks. Anyhow, we're always in the process of the seed time and the harvest. But we do this through thought, through creative imagination. Now, today, more than any time in history, you know that people are so in touch with the power of mind, the power of creative imagination, the power of creative visualization and creative imagery. All right, now you and I are imaging something all the time. My topic this morning is imagine that. And yesterday I wanted to work with these ideas, and I read, and I just was really, something in me was resisting, because I was feeling that I shared so many ideas through the Olympics, because the Olympic Games, as I've said, it was one of the great metaphysical events in our history of the United States of America, and that we were so reminded by the interviews and by the seeing the athletes in process and doing their thing, and how that they use creative imagination, creative visualization, how they use this creative power of the mind to perform at an optimum level. And so I thought, well, gee, I don't know what I wanted. What more do you want to hear about imagination? It seems like sometimes I get kind of boring. So I said to Bill McLaughlin, I said, gee, I wish tomorrow wasn't Sunday. And he says, imagine that. So anyhow, we get these little phrases that are kind of fun. And so why I'm sharing that with you is that we need to watch each other. We need to listen to what the other person is saying. So, you know, we need to catch one another, if you like, because I know that you're here because you want to change the direction of your thinking, the direction of your imagination, the direction of your thoughts, that which you're giving the energy, the great energy of your thought to. And so when you hear someone in your world say something negative, why, just turn and say, imagine that. Now, I hope they won't hit you or whatever, but hopefully we can use that so that we can say, hey, do I really want that in my life? Do I want to give the great energy of my thought, using this great principle of life, to that which I am feeding with my emotions and with my thoughts and with my beliefs? You know, we listen to the news. I love it. Dr. Barker used to say that we in the evening, we sit down and we do our meditation, or we do our prayer work, we do our treatment work, and then we turn on the 11 o'clock news before we go to bed. We've just undone the whole thing. Now, not unless you give power to that. The thing that we need to remember, and you know, more and more and more, I become so awed by mind, by this action and this reaction, by this great universal impersonal law that's creative and creates for each one individually according to the substance of their thinking. Now, this is where the responsibility comes in, and we can, by intentionally using the power of mind, this creative visualization, creative imagination, we can truly demonstrate or bring into our life the things that we think that we want. You better be sure that you want it, because you might get it, right? But we also need to be realistic. We need to be, you know, and I was thinking about that driving up to church this morning, and I was thinking about, I don't know, I guess they had the lottery in Chicago. Anyhow, it was $40 million. And on the news, 6 o'clock, not 11, on the news, they were saying how people delayed their flights in Chicago to get a cab and go somewhere where they could buy a lottery ticket. And so all these people are wanting to win. And of course, someone is going to win. And one person, the interviewer with the news person was asking one lady, they're all standing in line, and was asking her, you know, what she would do if she won. And she says, how the hell do I know? So she just never hadn't thought it through. Anyhow, and so another person says, I think I'd have a heart attack and die. What are they doing with their creative imagination? They're buying all these tickets. One guy bought 17 $1 tickets, and they're saying they don't know what they do, or they faint or they die and have a heart attack, and they never get to enjoy the money anyhow. Okay, we need to be realistic. But to me, it's realistic to want to be healthy. It's realistic to want loving relationships. It's realistic to be successful and abundant and to have lots of money so that you can donate it to the Granada Hills Church of Religious Science. It's realistic to have a friendship with the children and the people in your world. It's realistic to truly be and live an abundant life. And I want to share with you a statement by Roy Eugene Davis. When God came into the world as you, he didn't make a mistake. God came into the world as you to unfold his perfect plan. Part of this plan is that you be free of all that restricts and restrains so that you can creatively participate in the process of life. In other words, you are meant to be prosperous in all ways. If you are not prospering, if you are not living up to your inborn potential, you have a duty to yourself and to your world to remove whatever restrictions are present and to enter into a program of successful living. I believe that. I believe that we're here to really remove the restrictions of our belief system, and we block our own good, because the minute you and I can have a transformation in our consciousness and our belief system, and we can accept it and know that we're worthy of it, the law, this creative power, brings it into our experience. It has to be there. And so what you and I need to look at, if there are missing areas in our life, and there are from time to time, and sometimes more than other times, then we need to know that we have inner work to do. And most often that inner work is moving right back to my favorite theme song, sorry, and that is self-esteem. And so this little paragraph I just read to you is that you are not a mistake. That we were here and we were born so that our light could shine. We were born so we could have an abundant, joyous life. And that's what I loved about Vic this morning. He was up and joyous and just full of energy. And this, I don't know how, and I'm sure that's how he lives his life, because he's a creative person. Thought is creative. But you and I need to use this creative power to bring into our world, to our experiences, the idea, the things that fulfill us, the things that make life feel fulfilling, and that we are living life at an optimum level. And I'm not standing here and saying that I think we should use this creative imagination to get things, to get power, to impress people. I'm saying that we're here to express life, and that we are here to not express life in lack or limitation because God doesn't know anything about it. We're dealing with an impersonal creative force. You see, the Bible makes a statement: faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Faith means our belief, it means our thoughts, it means our feeling, our imagination, that which we're giving feeling to. If we're honest, we'll catch ourselves, or at least know we used to give lots of feeling to the negatives of life. We used to give lots of feeling to our problems, to our hurts, to our slights, and to our rejections. What are we doing? We're setting ourselves up for more hurt and for more slights, for more lack, more limitation, and more rejection. We need to learn to use this discipline and the responsibility that is within us to watch. In fact, the old Christian Science statement is to stand guard at the portals of your thought. It means watch what's going into your mind and what's coming out of your heart, what's coming out of your mouth. And therefore we need to be laborers in the vineyards of our mind, in the vineyards of our heart, because it's in the heart where the work is done. It's in the feeling nature, and creative imagination. Creative, as I said earlier, is an aspect of the right brain. Today we know there's a left brain activity and a right brain activity. The left brain activity is linear, it's analytical, it's the intellectual aspect of mind. The right brain is creative, it's meditative, it is the feeling aspect of our mind. Now, what we want to do is bring these two aspects into balance, to use our intellect to be realistic, to use our intellect to make decisions and to make choices, and then to move from that decision and that choice into feeling, into the feeling nature. Act as though I am and I will be. Creative imagination is the key to healing prayer. And guess what? We already do it right. Now, I'm going to back up for just a moment and talk about creative imagination. Today, as I said a while ago, that more than any time in our history, are the fields of science aware of the power of creative imagery. They're using it in the field of medicine. They're using it in the field of psychiatry. They're using it in the Olympics, in the field of professional sports and amateur, of course. They're using it everywhere. Now, they are recognizing the power of mind, and they are saying that you and I can image and create an experience. And you and I already know this. As I said, we're way ahead of the game. But to read about it, to read books about it, to hear lessons or classes or Sunday talks about it, doesn't change a thing unless we are willing to do the work, and unless we are willing to quit wanting someone else to do it for us and say, hey, I choose to use this great creative aspect, this power that moves through me every time I think. This is why some people say every thought is a prayer. Now, prayer, using creative imagination is the key to healing prayer, because our particular technique is first recognizing the nature of God, that God is the source, that God is first cause, that God is all that is, and that we know in our minds and our hearts that this infinite God could not create anything that was good and that was wonderful. And this is why the teacher Paul said that we should think on things that are honest and just and of good report. If we're going to think on things that are not are evil and that are negative and that are whatever, then we're going to create that. And so prayer, healing prayer, prayer that brings wholeness and perfection and abundance and joy and love in our life, is first recognizing the nature of wholeness, the very presence of God, knowing that in this infinite wholeness and allness, the very life of God is the activity of who I am, and in this allness, wholeness, I live and move and have my being. And we need to visualize, image the answer as if it already is right here and right now. And the teacher said, pray believing you already have, and it shall be done. And therefore, you see, the teachers of God, God's teachers of the ages have taught us the correct way to pray, but nobody paid any attention. And so, in order not to live life as an effect, because most people, most of us, most of the time we are the effect of our environment, and our environment is telling us how we're going to respond, how we're going to react, what we're going to think and what we're going to feel. We want to be cause to our environment. We want to be cause unto the effect or to the experience, and we need to pray aright. We need to know that right here and right now the answer is, first, we bring this infinite universal cosmic power, this cosmic presence, this cosmic life, this primal creator, in knowing that it is in all, through all, as all, and therefore all is perfect in God's world. Where is God's world? It's going to be in a world of mind. It's going to be in my mind, in my heart, in my subconscious mind, in my belief system. And therefore I need, in order to use creative imagery, creative imagination, constructively and dynamically, I need to know and behold the answer. I need to know that it's perfect right now. And the difficulty in this is that we have to look through the appearances no matter what. We have to behold the truth, behold the holiness, behold the activity of God, which is a God of love and harmony and order and beauty and life and joy. You see, we have accepted the conditioning and the fears of the ages that we're not worthy. Of course, we know. I love, some people certainly criticize Robert Schuller, but one thing, I received his last tape, and I left before that, on Saturday morning before he gave that last lecture. And what he over and over was referring to is what he calls a theology of self-esteem. And he says that the sacred must become secular, and the secular must become sacred. That's saying an I-thou relationship, and that's exactly what we know, that I in thee and thou in me. There is no separation, that we all are part of each other, and we're all a part of the universal family of God. and that this infinite love wants us to stand tall and wants us to use our creative imagination in positive, uplifting, growing, wonderful, wondrous ways. Now, our part is to cooperate. And if we don't cooperate, law doesn't care, it's impersonal. It can't say, gee, you're such a good person, why don't you get your act together? Why don't you get your thinking straight? Why are you so negative? Why are you judging? Why are you so unforgiving? Why are you letting those people hurt your feelings? Why are you letting yourself let the world tell you how you're going to feel? No, it can't do that. Only the experiences of life can be our teacher. And so we're here because we have done that. We're here because we know that we can use the power of mind. There's a power for good in the universe, and that we can use it. And we can use it to transform our thinking, our responses to life. And you know, once we get in the habit of doing that, it becomes easier and easier because we become aware. We listen, we hear ourselves, or we have someone to say, well, imagine that. And so we're caught up short, where we're not going to allow ourselves, as we did in the good old days, to dwell on the negative and to get caught up and just get immersed in all the negativity and wallow in self-pity. No way. We know that we cannot afford the consequences of wallowing in self-pity, and that someone did it to me, and what is called plumitis means poor little old me. And we can't do that. Now, if you want the consequences, then be my guest. I know that when I do it, I don't want the consequences, and I don't like the consequences. Now, I want to say that we don't do this overnight, and none of us have arrived, and none of us are perfect, and that it does take time. So please don't be judgmental with yourself or me when we're not experiencing wholeness and perfection in every area of our life. If we were, boy, it would be boring, and we wouldn't have any impetus, any catalyst for us to keep on growing and for it to keep on being more wonderful. I just happen to know that through experience, and I'm sure that you do too. So there is a way, and we need to be able to do it until we do it right. You know, I have no idea what time it is. The clock is flashing 1:58. What time is it, somebody? Okay, I got 10 more minutes. Great. I'll give you some more. And you can sit here and be joyous that we're here because we know that there is a technique of prayer, and that feeling is the law and the law is feeling. And this is why over and over and over Ernest Holmes makes the statement about, to the degree we embody the truth, the answer to the prayer that God is on the field right here and right now. Embody means that we embrace it with feeling. Then it becomes a reality. It becomes a dynamic activity and an experience in our lives. So we practice and practice, and we do it until we get it right. And if there's an area in your life that's blocked, take a look and check yourself out and see if for some unknown reason that you're feeling you're unworthy, that is just too good to be true for you, because that is not true in the mind and the heart and the eyes of this infinite God of love. And so we need to check ourselves out, check out our own belief system, check out our own blocks, our own limitations, and just do everything that we need to do in order to just knock them down. Because we don't need to live a life that is an ever unfolding experience of unhappiness and hurt because we're living from the world of effect. Some way, somehow, we finally realize, and it's not easy to not let your children and your spouses and your friends and the people that you're emotionally involved with tell you how you are going to feel. But if we're doing that, then we're giving them permission to be in charge of our life. We want to take back our power. We are empowered to create, and we need to use this creative power and this creative imagination and the power of thought that is substance and form. I want to go back. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Substance, and science reinforces this, and that's what makes it so exciting about what new thought and what we're teaching, that it's valid, that science knows that everything that becomes form comes out of they used to call it ether, now they call it quarks, and what it is an energy that becomes form, and that thought molds this energy. Your thought You know what? That's why you're a creator, or as they say, a co-creator with God. Our thought molds substance, and substance becomes form. When we can really understand this, science declares it, that quarks are this substance, and it's a high refined energy. And so when you and I get in an uplifted consciousness, what are we doing? We're molding substance from God's frame of reference, from the frame of reference of wholeness, of healing, of happiness, of joy, of love, of growth, of expansion, whatever it is that you want in your life. And we're molding that. And that's why if I be lifted up, will lift all men unto me. The more you and I get into an uplifted consciousness in the presence of this infinite, all-loving, all-powerful, almighty, awesome God, the more are we lifted into this higher energy which molds substance and which becomes form. And this is why we are really here. We do make a difference. We are here. We're not a mistake. Because eventually we're going to, whether it's this plane or the next plane or whatever lifetime it is, all men are going to seek God. And all men do seek God in some way. We're doing it a little more actively. And guess what? It sure takes a lot of action, a lot of energy, a lot of work, a lot of discipline, and a lot of responsibility. But I know that the fruits and the joy and the demonstrations and the healing and the coincidences that come into our lives just make it all so exciting and so worthwhile. Wilt thou be made whole is the question. If you're really willing, if you're willing to do whatever mental inner work you need to do to remold your thinking and to get a new mold and pour into that mold the answer, the vision, the image, the ideal, the dream, then everything that you need will come forth and become a part of that wholeness, because this feeling nature, this creative imagination acts as a law of attraction. And that's why we need to pay attention. Do we really want to experience where we're putting our feeling nature? And we need to get that energy and put that feeling nature and that imagination in joy. It sounds very Pollyannish to say, well, always expect the best. But you know, we need to retrain our minds. Instead of expecting the worst, which is how the world was conditioned for generations, because that's the way it used to be. It's taken a lot. You know, in fact, I think we've done quite well. It's taken a lot of energy and a lot of great, dedicated saints and sages and saviors since the beginning of history to be a part of the consciousness that is supporting us as we are daring to use this creative power, this creative imagination, and to pray. You see, when we quit praying to God for the thing and know that God is the thing, it already is, do we move into a whole different arena of life? We all get caught up in praying to this God for the thing or for the answer. Instead of doing that, we need to know and be involved and immersed that the answer is, whatever that is. Okay, now, creative imagination, creative visualization, many books have been written on it. There's books, Norman Cousins, Gerald Jampolsky, who do I want to use? Carl Simonton. So many of them are working professionally with people in the area of healing, in the area of creative visualization, and they have had remarkable results. The healing of cancer, the healing of all kinds of things. Now, do you realize that you and I have the same power? But it's a matter of sitting down and really working with our minds and with our thoughts and with our God. If we want to do it, it can happen. When we have a problem, what are we doing? Are we just saying a quick little treatment, calling a practitioner? Don't hesitate calling a practitioner when you need help, I don't mean that. Or are we really dealing with our own belief system, our own makeup, our own feelings about self-esteem and adequacy, and that we really have a right to receive or to accept? Acceptance is our only problem. Do you know that? When you and I can accept, then it has to be there. Such is the law of the universe. some churches do, and they do guided meditations and guided visualizations. And so, you know what? I just thought I'd close with one today. I've never done this on this platform, but I'm going to do this. And these are the 4 steps in using creative imagery or creative visualization. And they're very brief. I mean, they certainly can be in more detail. But right now, what I'm going to ask each one of you to do is to relax and to close your eyes and to get comfortable. And just let your mind be clear and open. Just let go of everything and just say to yourself, my mind is clear and open. And now, in your mind's eye, create a mental picture of yourself living in a state or a condition that's desired, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, whether it's health. Just in your mind's eye, picture yourself living in a state of acceptance, of experiencing the answer to that which you desire, that will fulfill your life. If you can't see a picture, then your thought, your feeling is just as powerful. So have the thought, and then get into the feeling of how you would feel if that answer was complete right now. Make it a present time fact to your mind and your feeling nature. And again, think and feel the fulfilled picture to be a now reality. Get the feeling of the answer, the fulfillment. It's right now. And allow yourself to have a feeling of gratitude